So now we are live, and here we have Hand and Xavier Domínguez. Is that right?
Yeah,
Did
it's
I
okay.
pronounce it correctly?
Yeah,
So
good enough. Yeah.
uh, Hand is from University of Oviedo, and Xavier Domínguez is our guest today. They will talk a little with us, and they bring us one presentation. So I will give you the moment for they present themselves. And can you start, Brent?
Okay, I'm really glad that we are here today to do this collaboration between the IEEE branch in University of Oviedo and IEEE branch in University of Santa Maria in Brazil. I am the president of the student branch chapter, and I'm really glad that Javier accepted our invitation to be our first speaker in this collaboration. Javier did his PhD in University of Oviedo, and right now he's a project manager in an energy company, a startup. And I will let the microphone for him to present himself and tell us about himself. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Ren. Not to talk too much about myself, more than your kind introduction. Yeah, let's say that I come from the academia world, but like in the last couple of days, I've been enrolled on an energy startup here in Spain, which is called Plexigrid, and we are very proud about this project. I invite you to go and check plexigrid.com. But thank you also, Ran, for this space, because besides the engineering and the project management and the technical stuff, I am really passionate about professional growth and personal growth, because the two of them are quite related. You cannot separate one for the other. And if you allow me, I can begin sharing my screen and we can begin with the conversation.
Sure.
Of course.
Okay, let me try to share it.
Just one comment for people who will like to have a question, please write them in the comment section. And as well for people who want certificates, we shared a Google form link, and I will put it again right now in the comment section with certificates. All right. Thank you so much again.
Okay, am I sharing my screen?
Not yet.
Not yet. Are you sure? Because apparently I am sharing according to StreamYard. You cannot see it?
Okay, now yes.
Okay,
Yes, right.
good.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's begin. The purpose of this conversation is to provide you some insights from my perspective, which I have kind of curated for the last couple of days, just after finishing the PhD. You know, I was trying to find a way on how to purse for integral success in work and in life. That's why this conversation is going to be about integral career success for engineers in the new job market era. I will try to be a little bit agile with the presentation. Hopefully, I will just take like 30 minutes, maybe less, hopefully. So that I really would like to give space to questions. I really would like to encourage the people attending to this presentation to raise their voice and ask some questions, hopefully. Okay, what are the outlines of this presentation? We'll be talking about on how to bring purpose to work and life, how to look career growth as a kind of closed loop control approach. And as you know, as we come from the academia world, we try to correlate this kind of woo-woo terms like personal growth and this kind of fancy stuff that usually are not considered into the way we look our personal lives. But what about if we approach this with a scientific method approach, how we can improve the way we operate into our careers and into our personal development with a scientific approach? Well, the third point, how or where do I outperform at work? How can I really differentiate myself into the job market? Then what are the trends in the job market, and what is my personal ikigai? This is a Japanese term I will refer later on. What is importance and what about having a mentor, and what is it relevant to be connected with a network of other engineers, other professionals, other people related to your activities. And finally, what about the mindset and the soft skills I need for integral success, for 360 success, as I usually call it? Okay, let's begin since the very beginning. Um, well, bringing purpose to work and life. I will begin this with a story. This is a quite not very famous, but a little bit famous story about three stone cutters. Okay, this story begins with a visitor that arrives to a town, and when he was like walking into the town, and this happened like hundreds of years ago, he just realized that there were taking place some construction regarding a new, let's say, building that was just about to be built. And he just realized that there were three stone cutters, and the three of them, they had similar tools. They were in the same kind of conditions, and they had like pretty much the same, but to the visitor's perspective, and he realized that these three stone cutters were behaving in a very different way. And it was like very obvious to see that they were behaving in so different ways. For instance, he approached to the first one and he asked him, "What are you doing?" And he just mentioned, "Isn't it obvious? It is very sunny, it is very hot, I am really thirsty, I am just cutting stone. I mean, why are you asking this kind of questions?" I mean, he was in this kind of behavior. And he also said, "Well, someday I really would like just to be as the owner of the construction so that I cannot be in these conditions." Okay? This was the reply from the first stone cutter. Then he approached to the second stone cutter and he asked the same question, "What are you doing?" And he just said, "I am just kind of earning a living. I am trying to do my best to feed my family. This stuff, I am just earning a living. I have no choices right now." Okay, it was quite understandable. Then he just approached to the third stone cutter. And the third stone cutter, also the same question, "What are you doing?" And he said, "Gentlemen, I am building a cathedral. I am building a place where people is going to elevate their spirit." And the kind of learning that we can have from this story is that these three people were having basically the same kind of tools. They almost had the same kind of skills, but the approach and the way that they were living their job and their lives was like very different. And then the question is, as whom of the three stone cutters are you doing your job now? Maybe not your job. Maybe maybe your job now is being a student. That's kind of full-time job. And what is the attitude that you are having? With which of the three stone cutters are you doing your job? This is the kind of question I did to myself, and I've been doing this for a while ago, because I was trying to really match what I'm really doing and to somehow pierce a way of working and living where I really felt passionate about it. Because the thing is that, we most of the time, well, at least it is recommended that we sleep like 8 hours a day. So it means that basically we just have left 16 hours. And from those 16 hours, we are working like 8 hours. So it means that if we spend half of our awakened life at work, why don't we choose to work as a third stone cutter, with a great sense of purpose? And that isn't the intention. That is the idea I want to bring you. I want you to just do some self-introspection and ask yourself, why not trying to do some effort and understand, how can I really enjoy the spend half of my awakened life doing something I feel really purposeful about it? If I make you self-introspection about this single question, I will be like very happy until the end of this talk. Okay, now let's say that we really want to live a purposeful work and life. How do we incorporate the scientific method? Like, how do we see this in a scientific manner because most of the times what I realized that when I was reading this kind of personal growth books, most of them were full like of very good ideas, but they were not like ingrained in a really proven way on how we can apply a method or a process so that we can use those methodologies like hundreds of years being developed by science into the way we approach and personal growth and professional growth. And then maybe some of you are like very related with this kind of control loop approach. I have an electronic engineering background, then some kind of master PhD, and we were like always related with this kind of closed loop control systems, In this kind of control loop systems, you're always like having some understanding of the actual status of the kind of variable you want to regulate or control. Of course, you want to regulate this based on a plant structure, like meaning a plant, the environment that somehow you want to regulate, you want to control. You need some kind of control actions to make it. You need, of course, to set some kind of set points so that you are willing to arrive to those set points. You need to incorporate a feedback, a closed loop system, so that in time you have like some kind of response on what you are doing. And definitely is doing good to the behavior of the plant you want to control. And of course, you have like your system is inside another system, and you may have like perturbations and so on. So I was like thinking to myself, how can I relate this to my personal kind of growth approach? And we can just relate it in a quite a straightforward manner, just well, after thinking it for a while. Let's say that, for instance, you want to have some professional goals, but those professional goals should be based on a deep understanding of the plan of yourself. You really need to know what are the kind of condition, what is the personality you have, what are your kind of strengths. So you really need to understand yourself, because this is your life, these are your decisions. You need to take your decisions based somehow on a deep understanding on yourself. So let's say that, for instance, okay, maybe I'm just like going a little bit fast. Imagine that we have these different elements inside of closed loop control. Where should we start? What is the kind of beginning? Where should we begin? Any guesses from these different elements and part of this closed loop system? Where would you begin? Well, you may have like different approaches, but at least the one I found it very pertinent was this one. First of all, let's ask, what is my actual status? Let's say where in life I am currently right now. I am in, what is my professional sense? What is my professional feeling about it right now? What is my life? How is my life doing already right now? I mean, how are my kind of emotions? How is my body behaving? How is my physical health conditions? Because, we as engineers tend to think that body usually is used to support our brains, but that's not true. You need to take care of your body, of your emotions, of your feelings. You need to look this in a full perspective. So we need to understand, what is my actual status? Where am I in life? Let's say, for instance, maybe if you're just about to finish college or university, you then are choosing to do something else. But what is your actual status? What are your kind of conditions right now? After having that kind of assessment, then we should move into understanding who I really am. What do I really want for life? What are my strengths? What are my personality? What I am really expecting for life? What is my personal vision of success? And once you have like a deep understanding of who you really are, then you say, okay, let's put some kind of professional goals into this. Because once I understand what is my actual conditions, what do I really am? Who I really am? Let's say that then you are in the position to set some kind of professional goals, because those goals are going to be definitely intended to provide you happiness in the long term. Because most of the time we put some kind of goals, and haven't you had this kind of feeling that once you arrive to a goal that you set, you just said, okay, but this was not really what I was expecting to. I was like feeling to have some sense of happiness at the very end, but just after a while, I just realized that I just climbed up the Grand Mountain. The Everest, I just arrived to the very top, was not my Everest. So that you need to set professional goals based that you already did the previous 2 steps. Then let's say that you have goals. Now you need some sort of action and habits to fully implement this, because otherwise it will be just kind of hallucination to have goals. If you don't implement, if you don't take actions, this is just going to be like an illusion you're having. But the real, let's say, way to achieve something is by implementing some kind of actions and incorporating new habits into your life. Otherwise, you're lying to yourself. We are lying to ourselves. Then once we have this kind of close, in order to have a close loop approach, after some time we need feedback. Okay, we are implementing some actions. Then after some time, let's say every month, we need to do some kind of assessment on how is the status, or we are putting set point goals, as in a kind of PhD control. You're putting a set point and you need to check and to realize how is the response going on. So you need to incorporate some feedback. You need to incorporate some kind of system or process that tells you on time, okay, I am doing good. I need to refine this. I need to change a little bit this kind of action I am having. And believe me, in life, we don't have control of most of the things in life. So we will have for sure perturbations along the way. So we need to adapt easily in an agile manner to what's going on into our lives. So we need to have some kind of actions and habits which are quite flexible to be adapted later on. So this is my kind of approach and view that which we can manage our personal and professional growth. Maybe you are quite aligned with this. And then let's say that we should go into these different steps, okay? This is the kind of order I could suggest. And the thing is that, let's assume that we are in step number 2 right now. So the thing is that the question is, where do I outperform at work? If imagine, we shouldn't see other colleagues as competitors. I really avoid that kind of language communication, like people relating to products and services. We are like humans. We are much more than that. We are like holistic human beings. And my idea is for all of us to support each other. But unluckily in the job market, it's like we are seen somehow as, let's say, professionals pursuing the same kind of goal or position as tens of other different persons. So somehow we need to differentiate ourselves, not in a kind of a very competitive way, but just in a kind that we can reflect our value to the people that may be our kind of colleagues or supervisors or something. So how can I leverage myself? How can I distinguish and how can I really expose the value I add to others? I was reading like a lot, and the way I found it the most interesting, at least for me, was to identify which are your unfair advantages and your talents. With unfair advantages, I don't mean any kind of unethical advantages you may have against others. Unfair advantages, and I'm going to explain you what does it mean. It refers to a greater view on which are the key differentiators that put you aside from other professions. This is the unfair advantages framework I suggest. This is based on a book. I am going, of course, to leave this material for Rand, then to share it. I encourage also to go and check this book. And it was very helpful for me in the sense that it proposed this kind of miles framework, meaning that you have like 5 factors to easily differentiate yourself. The M refers to the money and resources. Money and resources in the sense that if you're having some money, you're now in the position, for instance, to do some kind of training. Maybe you're in the position to do some traveling. Maybe you're in the position to begin a startup. So somehow this is a differentiator. And you may have like different resources. Maybe you can have access to certain equipment or access to certain laboratory. So this is a kind of differentiator because maybe others don't have this kind of access to this infrastructure. Then the second part, the I, the intelligence. But here intelligence, of course, the first part of intelligence relates to the maybe the studies that you have attained during your whole life, the technical skills that you already have. But intelligence also refers to the emotional intelligence you may have, because later on I will explain emotional intelligence is much more important than you actually may think. And luckily in the educational conventional system, we are just oriented to kind of grades or just kind of technical skills development. But unluckily, we are not being taught on how to develop emotional intelligence, which is in fact one of the most crucial factors that correlate to integral success of people in the long term. So when we mean intelligence, remember that both intellectual and emotional are very important. Then the location. Location means that in the place where you're currently living, you may have access to certain opportunities that maybe others doesn't have the chance to. For instance, let's say that you were born in particular countries. For instance, I am from Ecuador in South America. And let's say that for being in Ecuador, maybe I have the chance to face or to challenge things that where I can be really helpful about. Being in Ecuador can be seen as an opportunity for me to contribute and to collaborate in that space, and find ways on which I can support, on how can I leverage. Maybe I can have access to different kind of resources, like for instance raw materials, or I can have access to people or to culture or even professionals. Maybe if you were born like in different countries, maybe if you were born like in Brazil or in Spain, you may have access to specific kind of advantages that differentiate yourself towards other people. So wherever you are, you should see the opportunities of the place where you are living, because there are opportunities everywhere, okay? And then the next part, the education and experience. Education means to the kind of hard skills you build regarding, for instance, the university degrees you may have, but also about the experience, and not only the kind of experience you can have at jobs. But when I mean experience, you can ask yourself, what have been the personal struggles I have faced in life? Maybe by those struggles, you are in the positions to see life in a different perspective. For instance, my kind of experience and struggles have been sometimes like health issues or kind of personal issues, maybe family issues. But thanks to those, maybe now I am looking life in a different perspective. I am an engineer. I am like fully related to the technical world. But thanks to those experiences and for my kind of personality, maybe I am talking to you now in this kind of ways to look at different your personal or professional growth. Maybe I am trying to leverage on that experience. So also ask to yourself, what are the struggles I have faced in life? What are the difficulties I have overcome? And I can train and support others. Because, for instance, in my full-time basis job, I am a project manager at PlexGrid. But as a side project, I am like devoting daily let's say from 1 hour, 1 hour and a half daily to develop this kind of side project related to personal and professional growth, because I feel like very passionate about this. So this is the way that you can leverage on your experience and even create side projects, Then let's talk about the status. Here the status refer about basically the kind of connections and networking you may have. Because let's be honest, if you have access to key people or to key stakeholders, maybe you can have access to key professors, or maybe you can have access to key businessmen, or you can have some reference for these people. You also are having some kind of a fair advantage, because maybe other people are not in the position to talk with a renowned professor. Maybe you just can go invite a coffee for someone, and you're having access to very important new opportunities. This is referred to status, maybe about networking. So I invite you to do this kind of assessment on identifying where are your unfair advantages. Now, regarding to your talents, I just realized that somehow we just were born with some kind of tendencies, with some kind of ingrained talents, with some kind of unique perspectives. And not just for the moment you were born, and also because of your experience, maybe you have gained some kind of way or talent that it's just maybe awaiting for you, or maybe you are just developing it right now. I realized that there are some kind of scientific-based service or processes that allow you to identify which are like your main talents. And for instance, I suggest one which is called the Clifton Strengths. They do a kind of assessment where you are asked something like 170 questions, where you need to select between different choices. And after all those 170 questions, then they tell you, okay, these are the main five, let's say, talents we have found on you. Now that you may have this kind of five talents very clearly, most of the time you will realize that you already have like an anticipation, and maybe people can commend you that, yes, I've always seen this kind of skill, this kind of talent of you. But maybe sometimes we just need this kind of assessment to take it seriously, and then we can begin working and developing a lot this kind of strengths. So for instance, the kind of this Clifton strength assessment has like 34 different talents that once you make the kind of quiz, if you want to call it, you are given which are the five that outperform compared to the others. And once you know those five, you can begin working and putting more attention on your strengths. Because, you know, in the educational conventional system, most of the time, it is intended for all of us to achieve a same kind of basic level. The idea is to put uniformity in all of us. But where people really outperform is where you identify which are your like the core strengths you have. And once you keep leveraging and you keep improving those, is where you really excel from other professionals. So I really invite you to make this kind of assessment for identifying which are your strengths and keep developing those a long time. Also, I suggest there is this Clifton strength, it just costs, I think, $25 or euros to do this kind of assessment. I highly recommend it because it's going to provide you some kind of insights and perspectives. But if you want to really do some kind of online free assessment, I recommend you this 16personalities.com, where you're also going to be giving the kind of talents you may have ingrained. For instance, to give you an example, if you are like very good for analytical reasoning, maybe if you are just kind of a learner, which is like very willing to understand and adapt very easily to new knowledge, maybe you are the one who has empathy, and it is very nice to have empathy because you are good for managing teams and for collaborating between different individuals. Maybe you have like a good position for communication skills. So it's a really good exercise I encourage you to do. Okay. Moving on, what are the kind of job market trends and what is my personal ikigai? You know, there are some statistics I was like just looking for this presentation to provide you with like updated information about this. And as we have now people from the two parts of the Atlantic Ocean, let's say from Brazil and from Spain, I just realized that it was not so easy to find specific statistics for these two kind of countries, not even for Europe, but for the USA, I found some interesting information, and maybe we can scale that information from the US to other markets because somehow the world tend or is going into that direction also. That's why I have this downloaded this information. You can find just the link here, and you can go and check it also. But for instance, I was just doing a kind of assessment, understanding what kind of engineering degrees are the most in demand or expected to keep growing most in time. Here I have just highlighted the part of the electronics and electrical. And I just have realized, for instance, if we sort the engineering fields that are going to grow the most in the next 10 years, for instance, well, right now it is ordered from the higher to the lower. You know, the data scientist field is the one which is going to grow the most. Let's say it's going to grow at the rate of 35% by the end of these 10 years. So it's like a lot. Compared to the part of the electronics engineering degree, it's going to be 6% increase, and maybe the electrical engineering close to 2%. But this is like in raw terms, so don't feel bad assuming that you are not going to keep growing as fast as the part of the data scientists or software developers or web developers. the thing is that, and I wanted to show you this information because if we understand which are the kind of trends, mainly regarding to the part of the data science and to the computer information system, I really encourage you to begin thinking on upskilling in the part of the computer software development. Because if you are an electronic engineer or an electrical engineer, and if you go for working everywhere, if you have as a differentiator some skills related to data scientists and software development, you're going also to have the chance to grow very rapidly in your career, because you could easily then relate or occupy positions as data scientists or even as software developers. For instance, in my PhD, even though I have to accept I am not like a very good software developer, but it was very useful for my PhD, and then it was very useful for me to get related into PlexiGrid because we developed software for the energy transition. Our core is electrical engineering, but we developed software. So it was like very important for me to have this kind of upskilling into software technology so that I could correlate then to the enterprises. So despite the fact that electronics and electrical engineering demand is going to keep growing, I encourage you to also upskill and to have this kind of training regarding software systems and data scientists. And also, well, inside of this part of data scientists, you may have artificial intelligence, machine learning, and so on. But well, I also talk a little bit about this later on. So feel good that you have chosen almost all engineering fields are going to keep growing, except by nuclear engineers, where I just realized that it is supposed that they are going to keep decreasing the demand for nuclear engineers. But for all the other engineering, basically, it is going to keep growing, maybe not as fast as the part of the software development, as I said, but feel very happy that on the engineering world, you will have a lot of chances, okay? Then, as I already introduced a little bit, which are the kind of most demanded hard skills? So you're an electrical and electronic engineer, but then when you want to apply for a job position, they are going to tell you these are the hard skills that we value the most, because being an electric and electronic engineer, maybe it's like too broad. Maybe you need then specific skills to develop your career. These are mainly related with coding, also with web development, and with languages that you should feel like very encouraged to keep developing your skills. For instance, Python, JavaScript, C++, SQL, databases. I really encourage you to do this because this is going to be very helpful for you and your career growth. Then, of course, the boom that we're having now, the part of the artificial intelligence. If you can correlate to cloud computing, you need to tackle all of these at once. You can make like a path for developing this, begin with understanding some kind of coding languages, and then you can somehow, in a pretty straightforward manner, go and check the other skills like cloud computing, blockchain, cybersecurity, data analytics. Because imagine that you are an electrical engineer and you go for a utility and you're in the position to implement SCADA systems, monitoring systems, low voltage distribution system monitoring interfaces, and so on. If you know cybersecurity, you differentiate totally for all the other electrical engineers, only focus on the part of the electrical core stuff. I really encourage you to go and check these other hard skills: data analytics, knowledge of big data, knowing Internet of Things, and very important, industrial communications. I just remember when I did my engineering, I was not like kind of very encouraged to go into industrial communications. I didn't like enjoy them either, being honest. But now it is very important you have some awareness on industrial communications, and of course on languages. To be kind of fluent in English is like kind of a must in these days. Okay. I have taken this information from kind of accredited resources. I could encourage you to go and check, give it a look later on. And also part of the IEEE awareness on the trends, I found this website very informative, where you can have the latest trends regarding AI, regarding blockchain, and so with kind of real experience, real world scenarios. I also encourage you to go and give it a look. Then I commented you about this term called the ikigai. Okay, so let's say that luckily you have like chosen the engineering world, the scientific world, and this is like really needed. So you did a good decision. You have fulfilled this part of this ikigai criteria, which is based on 4 different pillars. It is based on finding something that the world needs and something that you can be paid for and feel happy because you can be well paid for the engineering path you have chosen. So these 2 are basically already covered for the kind of background you are having now. But then let's try also to find a match between these 2, but also with something that you kind of really love, that you feel like really motivated, you feel like kind of passionate, and something you're kind of good at. But don't worry if you feel that maybe right now you're not good at something you really would like to be good at, because you really can develop this kind of skill. You can do some kind of training and you can match this. But the thing is that let's try for you, I really recommend you not to match or to make professional decisions based on what you can be well paid for or what the world actually needs, because in the long term you are going to have this kind of dissatisfaction feeling, you're going to have this kind of emptiness. But if you in the long term are doing something you are quite passionate and you love, then you are going to find true success in life. That's why I have this kind of vision of professional growth, not just about having a fancy name before your name in your job, not just about getting degrees and certificates, but at the very end to find something that you're really kind of proud and you are like really happy in the long term. Okay, so based on this, why don't you ask yourself, what is your own personal vision of success? Not the ones that your teachers have told you, not the ones that maybe your colleagues have told to you, not the ones that your family or your community have told you. What is your personal vision of success? Your true, your authentic vision. I mean, if you reply to this, it's going to be also much easier to make career choices, because you will find that at some moment you will need to find between 2 or 3 or different options that may present to you. So why don't you ask yourself, what is your true vision of success? And based on that, you can have some kind of decisions of maybe you need just to gain some experience on the micro job. Maybe what is the kind of role you may have? Maybe you need some kind of upskilling or retraining. Maybe you may have, or you would like to do some kind of remote work, or maybe not. It depends on you. What is your personal vision of success? What is the kind of flexibility you choose? How flexible you are with your salary and so on. And once you have this somehow a clear idea, then I recommend to do a kind of 3-year planning, maybe no more, because the world is changing so fast that maybe doing a 5-year planning makes no sense, because maybe just in a couple of years a new technology, which is very promising, comes and people begin adopting it on a massive scale, then maybe your 5-year planning doesn't make any kind of sense. So maybe I encourage you to do a kind of 3-year planning. Maybe it's like more than enough on timing, on the timing aspect, but based on your personal vision of success. You need to reply to that first. Okay, then what about my mentor and network? What is this? You know, having a mentor means to have someone who has like a lot of experience into your field and is able to guide and support you to grow your career. They can provide you advice and support you on your decision making. Okay, this is quite, let's say, straightforward. What is a mentor, but how can I get one mentor? It's not so difficult as you may think, you know, because people, we are humans, we have like this kind of connections. And I have realized that experienced people, like senior people, once you approach them with humility and let's say with transparency, they are like kind of very willing to support the community. I have realized that the human kindness is much greater than you may think. So you just basically need to identify an experienced professional in your field that you really admire and you can reach out. Okay, you maybe, let's say, for instance, that you admire the CEO at Google, for instance, but it's going to be pretty difficult to reach out this person. So find someone talented and experienced you really admire, but you can reach, a person that you can reach out. Then approach this person and just request some time to talk to this person. just tell this person, I really need 30 minutes for you to please provide me. Can I please invite you just a coffee? Can we have like a brief call? Can I go to your office? And be transparent and be honest and tell that you admire these people. And if you come with their recommendations, that their support and their advice, this is going to be very helpful for you. But also ask to this person, how can I support you? Because maybe this person is needing also some kind of support in some kind of activity this person may have. May not be just directly to work or to career. Maybe he has kind of different ways in you can support this person. So make it as a win-win relationship. And then as for the mentorship, and you will realize that people are very willing to support you on this process. And it's very important to have a mentor because the mentor already passed for all the different steps and experiences that you are going to pass in the next 5 to 10 years. And you can ask this mentor, okay, how did you overcome this issue? What was your vision of this? How did you make to have like greater positions in your work? And the mentor is very helpful because he already did the path that you are just about to get. So I encourage you also to have this kind of mentorship. And always increase your network. As I said, we are humans really great on creating connections. And you can discover new job opportunities because sometimes the best job opportunities are not put in the eyes of everyone. You know, most of the times they don't do calls for very nice job positions. Most of the time, people are trying to go into their inner circle or to try to ask some kind of other colleagues for referrals. So if you have like a good networking, you have immediately access to new kind of alternatives, to new job opportunities on the go. So strengthen your face-to-face relationship. And I really encourage you also to use LinkedIn to foster authentic, broader connections. This is a kind of separate topic. I am trying to be like kind of very fast. I don't want to target too much on this, but I really encourage you to go for LinkedIn and improve your profile and try to create authentic networking. Maybe in another talk in the future, if we can plan something if this is of your interest. Finally, the mindset. Why do you need a mindset? Because let's assume that you are in the position that where you are feeling that maybe you having not accomplished too much. But believe me, once you have accomplished what you were like expecting, maybe if you don't have like a good mindset, if the Everest you climbed were not your Everest, then you're still also going to feel unhappy because you can have like everything in material life, but if you don't have the mindset, then this is not worthwhile. You're still going to feel some kind of emptiness. And always remember this, for the workplace, people are hired for the technical skills, but they may be like fired, or maybe you're not going to have like greater job offerings if you lack of soft skills. Soft skills are very important, and if you really ask in the labor market, they're going to tell you the importance of these soft skills. Well, I will leave you also to go and check for this information where they realize that the top teams are the ones having soft skills. In other words, the smartest high-tech skill teams were not the ones that outperformed. And this was a part of a Google research they already did. And these are the most demanded soft skills, dealing with the leadership, creativity, effective communication, negotiation. You can go and check them, but I encourage you, as the other part of the conversation, to go and check them. And I want to give space, hopefully, for some kind of questions. Thank you a lot for your attention. If you willing to contact me, feel free to do it via LinkedIn. I'm really like passionate about this kind of professional growth development. And maybe if this is like kind of interesting to you, and maybe some people is interested on this, maybe we can plan future on creating a kind of beta program where we can have like an intense sessions, like a 3-week sessions where we can go from developing your personal vision to detect your strengths, up to create a very nice CV, to update your LinkedIn profile, to develop your soft skills. We can see if there is interest, we can keep being in talking about this. And well, basically, this was the conversation. I just realized that I was just talking and talking, and I really don't like to talk too much. I really would like for you, hopefully, to comment, to manifest. Maybe you have some questions. Thank you for your attention. And this is it from me, at least right now.
Thank you, Javier Domínguez. That was a great presentation from the beginning to the end. I really enjoyed that a lot. And I think that you said many important things that I've started thinking about. For example, in the beginning, you said about the closed loop. That that was a thing that I have never thought. And I am in electrical engineering, so I understand how these electronic things work, but I have never thought about my personal goals. Uh, One thing that I always do is I always think is it's about my professional goals, and I spend a lot of time thinking about that and how I would like to achieve. But as you said in your presentation, it's first we need to know about us and our actual status. So that was a really thing, really interesting thing that you said. So if I do not know my plant, and in this case me, I will never get my the stats that I want. So that was a really interesting thing that you said. Yeah. And in that case, I take a screenshot, and you said that the feedback is important. That's another thing that I had that I thought. And in this case, I have a question for you about that. Do you think that this feedback should be done by ourselves, or should another person do it? Do you think that it will be more productive if we do it, or if another person analyze and do a feedback?
Yeah, this is a very good question. We should do both, because the thing is that we have some kind of awareness of ourselves, but most of the time, because we are like only living our kind of perspective, we are biased to the way that we actually really behave. That's why, as part of the understanding of the me plant, I really encourage you to do this kind of very brief surveys where you send to your friends or colleagues like key questions commenting on where do you find my greater strengths, where do you find my kind of difficulties, what do you think I am really ingrained or good for. So I could suggest to do both, because you need to understand yourself, but also from the perspective of others.
Yes. Isn't that point that the supervisor or the mentor can come in? Is that right?
Yeah, of course, you need to understand yourself, but then you need to go and check for perspective from others. And if 5 people is telling me that maybe I have this kind of leadership skills, maybe I can consider seriously. And even later on, if my mentor is telling me that he sees something in myself, as the mentor has like a lot of experience in the field, maybe I can really begin thinking that seriously. And that is why the mentor provides this kind of holistic perspective from the professional and let's say soft skills point of view also.
Yeah, I agree with you. Great explanation. Uh, I Now I will pass for her hand if she wants to say something.
Thank you so much, Javier, for the great presentation. Actually, myself, I really need it since I'm in my last year of my PhD, and sometimes I get overwhelmed about the thoughts about the what I should do in my career, what is my next step. As well, sometimes you lose the motivation because you start to lose the path where you actually wanted to, like, where to go with my career and everything. And I one thing I really liked about the skill set right now, engineers, electrical engineers, they require, because many people, like, I studied engineering, I started 10 years ago, and then I'm like, sometimes I regret my decision why I chose electrical engineering. But at that time we didn't know that data science and all this artificial intelligence will, like, be like leading in the market 10 years from the time I took my decision. But yeah, as electrical engineers, or mechanical or others, they need right now to improve themselves to stay in the market, not to feel that they are out of it, and to work on these skills. Since we are engineers, like we can we can like stay and improve ourselves, and yeah. But I'm really thankful for the presentation. I'm looking in the comments. There are no questions, and I don't have any. I enjoyed the presentation so much, and I don't know if there is any question. Please add it in the comments. We can wait a bit. If you have anything as well to add for us.
Well, as I said, Ran, maybe later on, if you see that there is interest from the community about on practical aspects on how to really implement this kind of process, I am like kind of really keen to support. I was also part of this community. That's why like I really love this kind of people. So I am kind of waiting for later on if you find it pertinent to keep in doing something else.
Yeah.
One thing that I would like to ask is, can you give us more detail about this program, Ready for Career Success 360?
Yeah, as I said, I have this kind of background and I'm really passionate about this, but for me, it's also very important to have some kind of training on how to be like a good career coach. That's why I'm right now taking some kind of courses to certificate myself and to provide a very good assessment. And I was thinking, for instance, if people is interested, we can, I already have like a process in mind on how to go through all these different stages. And as part of a way to support each other, and also if you can also support me, we can go into a process where I can have your feedback, and I can have also your insights, and I can really understand what are the kind of needs that you may have, so that I can redefine my model, my approach, my process. And it could be like a kind of way to which I can support your career growth somehow, and I can really understand what do you really need. Because when you design like a kind of program like this, you make an idea of what was useful for you, but maybe others are having different feeling or sensations on different kind of things or topics that should be taken into account. That's why maybe later on we can plan it like for later, maybe after summer or something, because people in summer maybe are not quite encouraged to get involved in a 3-week intense kind of program where you can have like daily small doses activities. Let's say, for instance, today I'm going to think about what is my true vision of life. Let's say tomorrow, what is the kind of soft skills I may have. The next day, and these kind of things. We could do like a kind of 3-week plan if you find it interesting in the community.
Okay, very interesting program. I think we will talk here at IEEE in UFSM. Maybe we can do a group and we can participate in this program.
Yeah, actually, some people are saying in the comments if we can make a form for people who are interested to participate. And yeah.
Okay, we'll be looking forward, Ran, to comment me on this.
For sure.
So thank you another time for Javier Domínguez and Brent. So I really enjoyed a lot. I think people that are in this transmission are always also enjoyed. And that's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you.
As well, I would like to thank everyone. Have a nice day and nice evening here in Spain. See you guys, and thank you so much for this opportunity.
To you guys, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Ciao.